Tip 1. Shutter speed for sharp photos. Freeze motion, eliminate blur, and in brackets, the power of a tripod. I love me tripod. So shutter speed refers to the time your camera's shutter remains open, allowing light to hit the sensor. Sounds obvious, but not everybody knows that. Now, I'm a photographer who uses a tripod for every photo that I can. And why do I do this? Well, this helps me to get the maximum sharpness by eliminating as much camera movement as possible during exposure. Exposure, not exposure. Your camera's on a tripod, it's nice and steady with good image capture technique. Your camera should be as still as it can be, which minimises, if not gets rid completely, of any camera shake. Okay, freezing motion. For still subjects, especially when using a tripod, you can confidently use slower shutter speeds such as 1/30th of a second or even seconds for long exposures without introducing motion blur. Now we're talking here about something that's still like a building. As soon as you introduce, vegetation, trees, planters, stuff like that, those things move. So we're talking about fixed things. But for handheld shots, there's a reciprocal rule, which is 1 over the focal length, which sounds more complicated than it is. Let me give you an example. If you're using a 50mm focal length, your shutter speed should be 1 over the focal length, which is 1/50th of a second or faster, which in this instance would be 1/60th of a second. But don't go below 1/60th of a second shooting handheld, because you're introducing the risk of camera shake, which gives you blurry photos. I'll come on to one way of preventing that in a minute. But fast-moving subjects, sports cars, what have you, you need to use faster shutter speeds. And we're talking 1/500th of a second, 1/1000th of a second, or shorter. I nearly said longer then. I always get these things the wrong way around. Camera shake minimization. A sturdy tripod is the best way to get rid of camera shake, allowing for extremely long exposures and maximizing the details you can capture in static scenes, such as landscapes or architecture. What I do, I use a tripod and it gives me a further benefit. It helps me to get the verticals vertical and the horizontals horizontal. So it's helping me not only get sharp photos, but get the best composition that I can. So what do you do if you can't use a tripod? You might not have one with you. You might not have one. And it's low light and your shutter speed's looking a bit of a concern. Say it's showing 1/15th of a second with your chosen aperture. Well, with modern cameras and lenses, you've got something called image stabilization. You can get lens image stabilization or in-body stabilization within the camera body. Now, my Canon 6D doesn't have this. My Canon 17 to 40mm lens doesn't have this, and that's why I use a tripod. But I do have a Canon 70 to 200mm f4LIS lens, which gives me a whopping 4 stops of image stabilization, which means that I can, I'm going to try and work this out now, which I might regret. So if I'm using a focal length of 100mm handheld, my shutter speed should be 1/100th of a second, which, if we're going by the shutter speed scale, that'd be 1/125th of a second. So if I go 1 stop, that's 1/60th of a second. If I go 2 stops, that's 1/30th of a second. If I go 3 stops, that's 1/15th of a second. If I go 4 stops, that's 1/8th of a second. So in theory, I can take a photograph at 1/8th of a second, handheld with 100mm focal length, using image stabilization, which will be as sharp as a photograph taken at a 1/125th of a second shutter speed. That's how it works. And it does work. It's incredible. So camera bodies, in-body image stabilization, shortened inevitably to IBIS. Image stabilization in lens, IS. Okay? These are massively helpful tools. And 4 stops of image stabilization it's significant. It really is. And if you take your photos on a tripod, don't just stab the shutter button when you're taking a photo. Use a remote shutter release or the self-timer built into your camera, or in this modern day and age, the Wi-Fi app built into your camera and phone. So you're eliminating vibrations from physically pressing the shutter button. Again, there's more than one aspect to getting sharp focus, and how you take photos is one of them. So mastering shutter speed and embracing the stability of a tripod, these are fundamental to achieving sharp photos and eliminating unwanted blur. And that's what we want. We want to eliminate unwanted blur. We want every photo to be as sharp as we can get it.